Yes, sir. Okay. So UpRock is a DePin network that enables users to earn tokens by sharing their idle internet bandwidth. Tokens are utilized by their 165,000 users for earning real world perks such as flights and airtime minutes. Jesse, would you like to add anything to that and give yourself an introduction?
Nice. Well, first I want to say it was really fun to listen to the other startups. So cheers to you guys, and thanks for inviting us to this. It's been really exciting to be a part of this just engaging with the Jupiter community. When we first started, we were at 165,000 users. Today we blew past 500. Yesterday actually, we blew past 500,000 users. So it's been awesome. So I just want to say thanks first of all. Yeah. So little context. I would say to explain our growth. Now, obviously, this announcement helped a lot, but I think bigger picture, we're tapping into three global narratives. The first is that humans thrive on stories. That's how we make sense of the world, how we find meaning. But we live in a world of information overload now. And so when we all first use ChatGPT or any AI tools, what's so amazing about it is helps us make sense of things again. Like fake news and too much news, those are all symptoms of just not being able to synthesize. There's too much stuff out there. But when we use it like a lot, all of a sudden we start to all realize, like, hold on a second, is it lying to me? Is this real? You start to see these clumsy, arbitrary censorship rules. And so it's like we're all afraid of Terminator AI, but it's actually worse than that. It's gaslight AI. It's like smothering mother AI, like don't curse AI. And that's like a and to be on a serious note, it is antithetical to Web3. It really is. And if we don't pay attention to it now, we all know this, anything that's too convenient, everyone tends to give up their privacy for it. So if we don't actually marry the principles of Web3 to AI today, AI will eat Web3's lunch. I really believe that. So we have to pay attention now and actually bring those principles to AI, to this AI internet future that's coming. So that's one that we're tapping into. Second is we've all heard the stories that data is worth more than gold or oil, but actually, we all intuitively know that, but what do you actually do about it, right? We make it actually super simple. Under 2 minutes, you can start earning rewards by selling your unused internet. And we do really, really fast, and that explains our growth. We actually onboard people really, really fast. And then that leads to the third narrative, which is DePin. It's more than a buzzword. I'm here at ETH Denver. Pretty much the entire week is all about DePin. A fund yesterday just announced a $100 million fund just to invest in DePin because all the industry leaders realize, like, wow, this is the fastest way we've ever onboarded people to Web3. So I can explain more on that, but I think those are the three kind of big narratives that explains our growth. And it's just the timing's great. So.
Awesome. Chris, do you want to give a little introduction to yourself before we jump into the questions?
Sure. Well, maybe I'll answer. So Jesse introduced the project, and maybe I'll introduce the team a little bit. So Jesse and I have known each other when you have a work wife, you don't talk about their age, just like when you have a real wife. But it's been 15 years now. It's essentially our third significant company. We exited the first two. I think we've talked some other places about our previous companies. But people sometimes walk up to us and walk up to Jesse and assume that he's the more technical guy and that I'm the slick sales guy. And it's actually quite the opposite way. But we are, along with our many excellent colleagues, by the way, we decided just two of us for today, but our third leadership partner and our finance director are both absolutely part of the team. And then our many excellent engineers who we have worked with on these multiple companies over multiple years are all very much part of the team. So we're up here to speak for all of us. But my background is as an engineer in avionics and then in our mobile app businesses for.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I guess sort of since we've been on the DePin conversation, could you give a brief overview of how your network integrates with sort of the DePin? How do you sell your bandwidth as an individual or user?
Yeah, I guess maybe best way is to describe a couple of use cases. So one of our partners is Coin Network. There are primarily on desktop today. If you think about most DePin projects, they all actually a lot of crypto projects in general, they all usually start on desktop because actually mobile is very hard, but this is our skill set. We've been doing mobile for a long time. We started with Android. We built a full-fledged native Android app store with a developer portal, virtual currency powered system. We even built media players like comic book reader, video player, all that stuff. So we're mobile first. So with the Coin Network, they have compute buyers that are looking for stuff like this. So a company wants to make sure their site is reachable on 3G networks. They use ping them, but really they're just kind of rotating data centers. If you really want to get an accurate report, you want to use real world devices in many different countries and send your report. So there's companies right now today that are paying for that today. that's way more efficient and more accurate through a DePin network. That's one. Another one could be literally just crawling sites. So you want to be able to access and you get, just competitive analysis on pricing or customer insights or sentiment on your products, etc. If you want to do that today, you usually get pretty much blocked by Cloudflare. So that's why people are using proxy networks. Again, it's way more efficient through a DePin network where everyone's incentivized to do a better job, keep the apps open, keep them apps running because they're earning rewards at the same time. So those are, I think, two kind of for once. Chris, you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I mean that's essentially the basis of it. Anything from anything archiving social media feeds to collecting live data from airfare sites, live news, obviously the Twitter one. That's what we mean by social media. But then also infrastructure monitoring, uptime, and then finally the last piece that we don't support today, but we may support in the future for users who choose to opt in is specifically sharing for VPN type usages. But right now, none of our users have to, and we would never opt them in without their consent to having a third party browse to their device. It would always be generic use cases where their device is being used as part of a monitoring network or a calling network or an ingestion network, or whether it's for AI, for performance monitoring, or for our or any other use case that requires accessing lots of data from lots of places.
Awesome. Just for the audience, for a little like introduction to what you do, is there, this will be sort of 2-3 different questions, but is there what's the closest analog in Web 2 to what you're doing?
So probably the closest analog is a couple different parts of a couple different companies. One is a company called Ola, which Ola is a company that makes browser extensions. They primarily do that to, well, frankly, in a kind of gray market way, to sell IP addresses. So if you use one of the films that advertises a lot on YouTube, there's a decent chance that if you're watching a Netflix video over them, that might be coming from a user who's had that extension shoveled into their browser at some point. The other side of it for the more monitoring and performance aspect of it would be something like a Bright Data or Pingdom and companies like that that provide distributed performance monitoring and uptime monitoring and things like that.
Sweet. So in Hollywood, we have the sort of movie pitch, which usually goes something along the lines of like the Matrix in the style of, it kind of sounds like a ChatGPT or a Mid-Journey prompt, but the Matrix with the story of, I don't know, Dora the Explorer. Do you have a single sentence like that to explain your product?
Matrix with Dora Explorer. Now our answer could be lame compared to that. No, actually, we don't actually mention DePin at all. I think the global trend is like everyone wants to make passive income on their mobile device. So what works for us is just say make passive income sharing your idle internet. That actually just works really well. You can say idle internet. You can say pay for your streaming bill. You can say pay for your top up your phone. Some countries where you have airtime minutes, like $15 to $20 actually is great. It powers your phone. It's empowering. That's how you use your finances. It's actually like currency in some countries, airtime minutes. So just variations on that is make passive income sharing your idle internet. People kind of tend to understand that pretty quickly. They all understand like, yeah, it just sits there doing nothing sometimes, especially while I'm sleeping, and you can help make money on it. Great.
Sweet. So does this integrate well with like the Helium network, for example, where it's like, okay, I'm paying for my service and also providing service and all this fun stuff. When you're not using your phone, is that bandwidth on the Helium network usable with your protocol?
Yeah,
Go
ahead, Chris. Oh, I was saying, well, I have a Saga phone, so I use Helium. I have 2 phones. I have a Saga and then I have another Android. I have UpRock running on both, and yeah, it's fine. It's like what matters there is that what's important there is it's still a unique IP address, and it's important that it's actually a real world device and it's a specific geolocation. That's what people are paying for, because otherwise you can just go through a data center. But why it's so lucrative, why people are paying $5 to $25 per gigabyte for unique mobile IPs is because it's a real world device. So whether it's Helium providing the bandwidth or another provider, it doesn't matter. It's the real world device that's actually key, and it's like a unique IP.
Okay, cool. So what sort of things would you pay for this bandwidth for? So say I was your customer or UpRock's customer, what would I use that bandwidth for?
You would use that bandwidth for you could use that bandwidth sort of one of two ways. You could use it either directly as literally I need bandwidth. I want to crawl all of American Airlines flight schedule, or I want to know everything that someone is saying on Twitter and Weibo and everywhere else about a particular topic. But for many of these use cases, you probably won't be crawling it directly. The very typical use case is I'm paying Cloudflare or some other company to provide uptime and WAF protection for my website and all that kind of stuff. And I want to know if it's actually up. So do they have a data center outage somewhere? Did my SSL certificate expire? In which case, you would more submit a task. And the task would be, here's my website. I simply want to know from a representative sample of internet connections all around the world. Is it reachable? How fast does it load? Is my SSL certificate valid? And so on. So rather than having to program directly against making a network connection through a proxy network, connecting, sending the data, parsing the request, you simply sort of submit a job to the UpRock network, and that job propagates, and then you gather the answer at the end. The eventually supported use case will be a more direct one where you can simply get a socket connection to a specified region in the UpRock network, but that's one we're also approaching a bit more slowly because we want to avoid the potentials for abuses in that use case.
Yeah, and I can also add like where we see this going. Today, if you were to use kind of Web 2 counterparts like a Bright Data, those tools are quite technical. You have to be somewhat of a developer or know how to do queries and stuff like that. With the AI providing such amazing insights, which kind of AI model would you trust? An AI with a black box data where you don't know where it's coming from, how it's trained, or a decentralized people-powered network where you can actually crawl the internet, present the information, the world's knowledge as it is, instead of providing some kind of arbitrary censorship. So one, you're going to want to have AI agents that is getting the data as it is online and actually accurately presenting it. Second is the tools to actually do that today. If we democratize that, so for example, whether you're a creator, you might spend every morning checking out TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, podcasts, and just try to figure out what you want to create that day. AI can give you that superpower to say, hey, can you just let me know what's trending today, be able to crawl the internet, not get blocked, and provide some insights every morning, save me some time, and create the content. Same with a small business or medium-sized business. Every marketing business person wants to be able to just save time and figure out insights. But today, if you're going to have to do that, you might have to ask the developer to say, hey, can you tap into this proxy network, get the data I need? If it's democratized where anyone can do it without code, using natural language, talk to an AI and say, hey, this is what I do. This is my business. Here's my goals for the month. Can you give me the insights to help me deliver and be more effective and more competitive? That'll be very powerful. That will increase the demand for a DePin network because everyone's going to be able to use it more and more if you don't have to learn how to code to do it.
So
Another thing is like, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, so if I can draw an analogy for the moment, and maybe I should have said this straight off. We anticipate that by far the biggest use of actually sending data through our edge locations will be people who are making natural language AI queries. And some companies, so for those of you who are familiar with Wolfram Alpha, in addition to being a wonderful inference engine, it also has all kinds of data. And Wolfram spent years and years and years crawling the internet and collecting all sorts of facts and somehow organizing them into some kind of a structured database. And it was a massive, probably many millions or tens of millions of dollars effort. And it only knows the things that it knows. And you can't ask it about the score of a sports game that's going on right now. And so what we really want, a lot of the use cases we talk about, whether it's looking at airfares, looking at social media, looking at something else, we want a query dashboard for the internet as a whole. Now, one way of doing that is, again, to try to build some crazy complex system that classifies all the data into some kind of structured format, but frankly, and then to expose SQL on top of it or whatever. But all of that's complicated. All of that's very developer oriented. Large language models, the most amazing part of them is probably not their ability to write an essay for you. It's their ability to take unstructured data and generate unstructured answers out of it. So you don't need to learn SQL. We don't need to sit there and figure out how to normalize some database table from everything that exists on the internet. A large language model, coupled with the ability to go out and grab the data it needs, is your query dashboard for the internet. It completely changes the paradigm by not having to structure and pre-plan all the queries and think about what kinds of questions we can and can't answer. The large language model is that magical interface. It ties it all together, and without having to go through a bunch of engineering contortions in the middle. So why are we talking about DePin and AI at the same time? It's because the DePin is what empowers the AI to be able to go and answer these kinds of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. So just to juxtapose it against something that people might know, and I also got this question in the chat, could you guys sort of explain the difference between you and GetGrass on as of right now?
Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
so a couple things. I would say I guess part of the key difference is they're a browser extension. We are mobile first. It is harder to make native apps. I think that's, Chris can expand on that, but that is important. I would say second is that I'm not sure if they're going to take this approach of aggregating a lot of different DePin tasks. There's going to be a lot of projects out there. Instead of downloading 10 to 15 apps, why not just download one? So I think that's one of the reasons why the Koi partnership worked out. We have a couple others coming where, most people don't want to have to download so many apps or manually decide which task they want to opt in for. You just want to auto earn, auto stake, and then get rewarded and do something with the rewards. We want to abstract away all of that and keep it really simple. I think a lot of crypto projects make it really complicated. The setup is like, you want to be the contributor, you want to be the validator, you want to do this, you want to do this, you want which task you like log in every day, pick one you want to opt in for. Like, no. Just earn. We do that for you. Just opt in. Under 2 minutes, start earning. So I think one way is like with our app, you can actually earn 3 tokens. We give out Koi when on Wednesdays and actually UPT. So we're going to do more of that. That bundling is very powerful. It's great for marketing. I'm not sure. I don't want to put words in their mouth. Today we call it DePin, but really in a year from now, it's going to be called the next gen world's best reward program. If you think about this, like all rewards programs, you have to buy something first to get 1 to 2% cash back. Or if you're on airline flights, you have to fly maybe 10 times to get some points for a seat upgrade. With DePin, your IP address and the data is valuable. So you can instantly show the value of like adopting a Web3 wallet. Empowers you really quickly. You can see rewards really fast. It is actually the most powerful reward program ever. So that's why we talk about that a lot. Like strong tokenomics cannot be a DePin network that just says earn tokens. Because what do you want to do? You just want to cash out all day long? That's not going to be very powerful or healthy tokenomics. We want to say, hey, yeah, sure, you can cash out if you want to. Swap it through Jupiter. We're going to integrate with you, obviously. Or if you keep it with the system, then you can stake it. You can earn more interest that actually helps you get better deals. Or you can spend it with us. And if you do so, we get a higher commission on flights, on airlines, on cars, or whatever, restaurants. And because we make a higher commission from 5 to 30%, that revenue goes back to buying the token. Some of that goes back to buying the token to burn. And it's just a healthier and more revenues better for the whole network, on-chain buybacks for anyone who's contributing data. So I think like we're starting that now. That's a big part of our roadmap. I'm not sure if Grass is thinking of it that way. I think, fast forward 2 years from now, let's say we have 10 million wallets. That's a powerful reward program. We know how much money is in wallets. We can talk to brands, say, hey, we have 10 million people that are willing to spend some money. What kind of deal can you give us? That's collective buying power. So that was, I think, 2 powerful things we're thinking. Chris, go ahead.
And the other part of that is a lot of places. So for many of these use cases, we are just as happy or even happier to have users who are outside of the US because there is a huge demand for worldwide coverage for data access in these kinds of networks. And so as an example, in countries like Nigeria and Indonesia, where we've seen good traction, we can at retail prices buy a gigabyte of data for 10, 20, 30, 40 cents. I believe the number in Nigeria was about 39 cents, and in Indonesia it's in the tens, something like that. In comparison, in the United States, a little research shows that 2023 is about $2.75 a gigabyte. So here, that reward might not be as compelling, but in a lot of countries, simply sharing your network connection is enough for us to be able to actually fully reward you to be able to redeem your UpRock tokens for your next month's phone bill. So it's a very virtuous cycle there, which keeps us wanting to drive people in. The other aspect when we talk about rewards programs in the context of tokens, it's we tell this to people, but American Airlines doesn't earn money from being an airline. You can go look at some of their financials and stuff. They earn money because people buy their credit cards to earn their miles. They make more money from that. They technically lose money flying airplanes. They make all of their profit from the credit card system. And that's not exactly what we're building, but when we look at tokenomics, we think it's incredibly important that there is a complete ecosystem. This goes all the way back to our App Store days. And one of the biggest lessons we learned in the App Store days, we built the App Store and we sort of thought, okay, we're the first game in town. We have an App Store on Android. And then users will come, and that wasn't too hard. And then we thought, oh, apps will come. And that was the hard part. Without having that supply, we had lots and lots of users and not that many apps. And that was a big stumbling block for us originally with that company that it took us some time to overcome. And so with UpRock, we're trying to make sure that we have both the significant use case so that when users come, we actually have a real use for their devices so that we can be rewarding them for tokens. And then at the same time, offering a real outlet for those tokens so that people have desirable and aspirational things to spend them on. So probably many of our users will primarily redeem for airtime minutes or other relatively low cost redemptions like that, but also buy that all the way up to book a flight, book a hotel, whatever it is you want, so that there is a full circle in that rewards program.
Awesome. So I have one more question, then we'll toss it over to Slug. I'm going to steal this one from him because I'm curious immediately. So you guys say you have 500,000 users. How have you managed to attract such a massive following people in the space? And then also, what sort of contributed to your massive foothold in Africa?
I think we had a few YouTubers or some influencers talk about it, which is cool. We didn't, we don't pay for any of it. It just kind of organically happened. One is like some of it's just old school guerrilla marketing, like really, for example, with the App Store, we didn't mention it, but it was an app store for adults. So it was adult apps. And so you're pretty much blocked from everything. So we had to be really scrappy to figure out how to get our own distribution. That company had 15 million customers. So a lot of it comes down to just building up links, like the keyword topics that you want to care for, whether it's DePin or passive income, like those kind of keywords. We just go out and like hustle. If someone writes about it, we reach out to that writer, say, hey, we'd love to be part of the conversation. They actually sometimes respond, give us a link. That really helps a lot. We know how to do App Store optimization for the Android store specifically. So here's a good advice. You're not popular until you're popular. So the first 10,000 installs matters a lot, because you guys notice too yourself. When you look for a new app, you're kind of going through the store. If it has like 500 installs, you're not going to install it. Or if it's even under 10,000, you don't want to install it. But if it has a good like 5-star review and 10,000 installs or more, you're more likely to install it. So it's that first hurdle for any app companies, like get past that 10,000, for example. So we know how to exactly do that. And once you get there, it starts to move pretty quickly. So yeah, so been organic. We don't pay for ads. We've just been doing this for so long. And I guess, again, going back to those 3 trends, like DePin actually, I don't know about you guys. I saw DePin trending on X this week. Maybe it's because it's ETH Denver this weekend, but I never saw a DePin, like a technical term like that, ever trend before. So obviously it helps a lot. I think the Koi network partnership helps a lot. Jupiter definitely helped a lot. We saw boost every time you guys mentioned us. That helped a lot. So yeah, I think all of that is just combines. And then with crypto, attention matters. So, there's so much noise and FUD out there. So once you get someone to validate you, and we just got approved to be, if you have a Saga device, you can actually download through the App Store today. So Solana Mobile mentioned us. That also was huge. Oh, you guys can know like the Solana Mobile team they love DePin. They're seeing that as like the perfect way to get more people to use Solana Mobile. So that's going to come very soon. Like we're excited to be a part of that as well. They have 100,000 devices coming. We're going to do some perks for the Saga Genesis token. 100,000 users. We're going to probably do something for them too. And yeah, they're gonna probably use DePin to break the duopoly of Apple and Google, right? So let's go.
Yeah, I'm curious on that, and then we'll go to Slug for the duopoly. Is that of concern to you, and do you see sort of the Saga as sort of a route through that?
We've been having fun with Google and Apple for a long time. We got cease and desist from Apple, from our App Store. Actually, Steve Jobs, when he was still alive, he said, "Hey, there's a porn store for Android. Don't go there." And we got 20,000 installs that day. So thanks, Steve Jobs. And then Google, they blocked one of our stores too. We were the first adult app on Google Glass, and they banned us. So we have fun with them. We're not an issue with that. Android's great because they're part of the Open Handset Alliance for a long time, which is why you can still have third-party apps compared to Apple, which is why Solana chose Android as well. So even though there is workarounds, but really there's a lot more freedom on Android, so we never had a problem with it. I think we're going to be okay on iOS. Again, there are similar apps in the store already. There's VPN and proxy apps, so I don't think we're going to have any problem with that. and then there's deal apps, etc. So yeah, so we know how to do the workarounds.
Awesome. I guess, yeah, I'll toss it to the slug.
So yeah, I just want to break this down a bit more for the layman like I did for Sourceful, but the main selling point is that people can sell their unused internet. What type of revenue is possible for this relative to someone's internet bill?
The going rate right now, really, like to be attractive, to be competitive, is you need to be able to earn anywhere from $10 to $20 a month. There is a mainstream app called Earn App. I think Pawn App is a crypto company, but there's a couple of Web2 companies where people are earning between $15 to $20 a month, and that is actually pretty good. Even in the US or overseas is even better, obviously. But here it's like, if you say, hey, we'll pay for your Apple streaming bill, because so many streaming bills are about $10 to $20. So if you can just cover one streaming bill, that's actually a good enough hook for people to download it and keep it installed and keep it open. And around the world, being able to swap your $15 to top up your phone bill to be able to access billing, financial services, and all that through your phone is very empowering. And that's enough. That's enough for many countries. So, and it's also, here's the interesting thing too, is like everyone in the app business, you always want to, you always think about buying the most lucrative countries, so US, UK, etc. And it's hard to monetize India and other places where maybe they don't spend as much or high purchase items. For us, like data is no matter, the geolocations and unique IP is actually still valuable everywhere around the world. So we can actually, people are paying for that. People are paying that in Web2 space. We're going to scale way faster in the Web3 space because we incentivize the entire network to be part of it. And they're all, they're opted in. They're all once you have some skin in the game, everyone wants to make sure the company's doing better, the network to do better. So we're scaling way faster than any Web2 proxy company ever did. I'm pretty sure of that. That's the power of DePin. So yeah, that's the answer.
So and to maybe further slightly expand, if your question is there enough sell side buy side spread to both reward users and make profit in this, the answer is absolutely yes. Depending on the location and the type of network, but especially for mobile networks, sell side for just pure proxy networks without all of the smarts and the connectedness of having the DePin network, but just pure proxy networks are 5, 10, 15, even $25 a gigabyte.
Yep.
Buy side for some of those most expensive locations, as I already mentioned, are tens of cents to several tens of cents per gigabyte in many locations. One of the worst countries for us is the US, where an average buy side would be about $2.75 a gigabyte, and which would tend to have a lower sell side as well, maybe $5 to $10 a gigabyte. But even in that scenario, there's a significant spread between the buy side and the sell side on bandwidth. And what I mean by buy side and sell side is if we just sort of purely assume that there's an economic thing, that people who are using the app want to be able to earn at least enough to pay back the data that they're putting into the app. There's a significant spread between what we can sell access to that data for and what it costs the users to get that data. So even in countries like the US where direct airtime top-ups, where you just suddenly magically get credit on your phone, aren't very common, there's a significant difference between the price that people pay to get that data and the value that that data is worth once we make it available in a distributed.
Yeah, and we're just scratching the surface. Like I'm pretty sure everyone in this chat room, I don't think anyone uses AI agent yet, right? No one trusts it yet. No one's asking. I mean, why AI agents have so much promise? One is 24/7. It's able to grab information. The average person looking for a flight deal, they do it. They spend about 5.5 hours. They usually do it a couple months in advance. You usually have 50 tabs open. It's crazy. We all experience that pain. We just accept it. Every new tab you open to just do a travel planning is an AI agent or a model that can just eliminate that tab. Eventually it'll get there, which means you're going to just use the internet as your database, as Chris said, and you just want to say, hey, this is what I look for. Constantly look for it 24/7. Constantly crawl the internet without getting blocked, and feed me insights or pricing or whatever it is. And once you have one AI agent that's powerful, everyone's going to want it, and it's going to multiply. Why wouldn't you have 100 agents working for you? I think that's going to come pretty soon. But we're just scratching the surface because today no one uses an AI agent at all. There's no autonomous stuff out there. No one trusts it quite yet. But that will come. So the data needs will be there. The crawling needs will always be there, and I think it's going to grow.
Gotcha. I just kind of want to unpack something that was said earlier, but you said the biggest use case of this will ultimately be natural language AI queries because it's a much more efficient system compared to human search, such as your example with the airlines, 50 tabs open, or the Wolfram Alpha model that classifies a bunch of limited data and it's very complex to build and not as accurate.
Yeah.
Or
I
up to
would
date,
agree with
rather.
I would agree with almost all of that. To be clear, what Wolfram has built is truly spectacular. The quality of their data is unquestioned. The challenge is the cost and complexity of doing that. So that, again, and the fact that you have to predefine what data you want and what kind of questions you're going to be able to answer.
Gotcha. And it's not just AI queries, but you can also get this AI agent to potentially perform tasks and jobs as well. Is that correct?
That is correct. With AI, one has to be careful about overselling and under-delivering, which is a huge problem in AI right now. Right now, today, what we and probably almost anyone else can actually deliver is an AI agent that can answer questions. Truly executing tasks is clearly on the horizon, but it almost doesn't matter whether we're the ones who build that AI part or not, because what that agent is going to need in order to execute those tasks is the UpRock network. I would be perfectly happy if we have 10, 20, 30 different companies that are using us to power their AI agents. We are not planning to train AIs. It is simply a giant money pit that everybody else in the world is already pouring money into. We are planning to build what those agents need to actually reach out and touch the world.
Gotcha. So you're not training these AIs directly, but rather you're facilitating people who do train them to be able to tap into your service or platform, right?
We are, and we are offering an AI to start with. And that AI, by the way, is based on open source stuff. There's no like magic behind the curtain. We're simply using off-the-shelf AI agents such as Falcon 2, potentially Llama due to licensing issues, potentially, but Falcon 2 is very good, and others, and simply tying them together with the data network to answer the questions. So the open source community has already produced agents that are perfectly capable of speaking. And I like to sort of analogize, say when you start a new project, if you hire somebody or get somebody to join your team, you don't teach them how to walk and how to talk. They already know that. That's the basics. You just teach them and give them the tools specific to your domain and your project. And that's really the state of uh, AI right now today. One simply goes to Hugging Face or other repositories and gets agents that already know how to talk. And that's amazing because in a computer science context, talking is a tremendously difficult problem. But talking isn't worth very much if you can't access data you need to answer or process specific questions or specific actions or something like that. And so we provide that missing link. As the actual quality of the AI agents get better, it will only make our service more valuable because an agent that can do more complex reasoning will need more data to actually answer complex questions and tasks.
Gotcha. And sort of what ties this all together is this network of people that are incentivized to sell their unused internet bandwidth through various ways, either directly through compensation or these deals. And you get sort of that added benefit of that like marketing effect that you were talking about earlier, where because you have a huge user base, it's almost auto-propagating that people want to give deals to it. And that's
Exactly.
sort of,
Correct.
that's very clever.
Yeah, and you want to start that now because you know it is a highly competitive space. So you know if we think about this, let's say we don't even get on the deal side of it for 2 years. I mean, which project would you rather like join? The one that has great relationships over 2 years with brands and deals and like, oh cool, I can do a lot of stuff with my tokens. I can keep them there. I can earn interest or yield, you call it, whatever you want. We'll probably say interest because it's more mainstream. But just being able to build those relationships, that's sales and marketing that takes time. Also just the infrastructure for people to do wallet marketing, that make that mainstream, because you have 10 million wallets in 2 years. Like how do brands interact with it? What do they do? Airdrop coupons or maybe extra mileage points on airlines? Like that's gonna be very powerful. Or like, hey, we like to just segment US people have at least $500 in the wallet and we'll give them this price, or maybe they have this NFT. Like all that infrastructure needs to be built so people can just maybe even permissionlessly like just access their, connect with their wallet. A brand can connect with their wallet engage with our customers. Whoever opts in can get rewarded with any company that wants to do that. So you have to start that now. That takes a lot of work, and I think that's going to differentiate us compared to other DePins or with the sole message of earn tokens.
Gotcha. Yeah, what I think is interesting about this is the fact that at its core, like when you dive into everything, it's solving a real tech problem, but you guys are taking the human element and incentivization elements very seriously as well, which is something that a lot of projects tend to overlook sometimes.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that also came from our App Store days and even Tenta days, the Tenta browser. We've never cared to do advertising. It's like basically you're spending all your money on giving it to Google. Here's an example I'll say. So, Tenta was a crypto browser. We sold it to Avast. We're competing with Brave, but actually we were number one. If you looked up crypto browser, encrypted browser, VPN browser, we beat them on the rankings in the App Store. And here's how we did it. We didn't pay for ads. So let's say you have, a few $1,000s. You can either spend that on ads, or let's just spend that on dev time to build up if you look at what's my IP, most of the IP address sites, they're built in like 1990s. They all look like crap. They're not outdated. They're very spammy looking. None of them actually support some of the new initiatives like DNS over TLS. So we built the most modern IP address tests where you can actually check if you have DNS over TLS installed or enabled as well. And then we just marketed that tool, made it free, and a bunch of different sites like DNS, cybersecurity sites linked to us. And that $3,000 was actually way more spent building that tool, because it just gave us a lot of link juice and it made us rise in the rankings in the App Store. If we spent $3,000 on Google Ads, that would have been nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. Maybe we got some installs, but this was like the gift that keeps on giving. We have to get link juice, right? So we think about, that's like a hard thing to do. It takes a different type of creative brain muscle. You have to think about what are all the kind of cool freebies and tools you can do that builds links that people want to talk about, that people want to share. And some of them are duds, but you just have to do them over and over again every week. That's way more effective than buying ads, I say.
Gotcha. Is there any sort of like security risk involved in any of this, any of the stages of this as a user?
No. That's something that's very important to us, is protecting our users. Our whole history has been about respecting and protecting our users in all of our companies. One of the specific advantages we have by being a mobile app is that we're in no way running inside the context of your browser. So one risk that you always run when you install a plugin in your browser is it's a plugin in your browser, and there are security permissions, and if you audit them carefully, you should be able to trust a plugin in general. But plugins have been sold, plugin updates have been pushed to shovel new permissions. It's a real risk. Our app is standalone. It has no access to your browsing data on your device. Let's say the biggest theoretical risk is that simply somebody tries to launch a DDoS attack or something like that through your device, which really isn't a risk for you. It's a risk for other people. But that's something that we also are very concerned about, and that we try to minimize by not simply offering just sort of an unconnected proxy. By the way, to be clear, your device is not running a proxy server like a SOCKS 5 proxy or something else like that. We have built our own end-to-end data system. So we call it RWS, read, write, seek system, which is essentially what it does, reads, writes, and seeks data. So when a workload wants to contact a device, it doesn't get to pick your device specifically. It gets to pick parameters. I want to access a mobile network in such and such a country, or I want to access, I don't care, and we just assign you at random. And then it sends its workflow. That workflow propagates out to your device, does its thing, and comes back. That workload can be real time. That is, the workload can read and write data if necessary, but it's not something where, for instance, we've just like opened up a proxy on your device and whoops, somebody comes along and finds our root password and does something like that. It's actually the other way around. Your device connects to a matchmaking server, which then assigns work out to it.
Gotcha. Kimo, did you have any other questions you wanted to ask them?
No, I think we've been pretty comprehensive. Did you guys have anything else you'd like to add? Quick summary or wrap up pitch or any of those things?
I think.
I want to add,
Oh, go ahead.
or yeah, if you go in a second, I'm just going to add one thing real quick. You asked another project this, and it was really a good question. How does this get out to grandmas? How does this get out to people who
Right.
aren't so
Perfect.
interested in crypto? People love earning money, and Jesse has mentioned this. There's another app called Upside, and I'm down here in Arizona. If you go to the smallest town, you know that song "Standing on a Corner" in Winslow, Arizona. If you go find a gas station in Winslow, Arizona, and talk to somebody grabbing a pack of Marlboros off the shelf, not a very wealthy area, there's a good chance they have the Upside app or something like that on their phone to try to earn a few dollars. So earning for something that they already want to do is something that is a very powerful incentive to people. And by making the app super easy and straightforward, and I encourage everyone, go download it right now if you have an Android, iOS coming soon, of course, but download it and try it out and see how it works. Making crypto easy and straightforward is extremely important to to bring people on board. And so while I love the complexities of crypto and I would happily talk for hours about different kinds of cryptographic algorithms and things like that, for the average user, what's important for them is that we make good decisions for them and sort of present them with a simple, straightforward path through crypto that allows them to do what they need to do with a few clicks of a button. And that we believe is going to be something very powerful about both our niche, but also how we're building the app.
Yeah. Yeah, mobile first is where it's at. I mean, that is our unique skill set. I think that's the reason why Salon Mobile is excited about it. And I guess one thing I want to add, because someone specifically added this in the Discord room, they wanted to say, can you really expand on tokenomics? So I think maybe we should just add that a little bit. One, that you can go to uprock.com/tokenomics. We have a white paper there. We actually do a breakdown there. But I would just highlight some of the things. So one, how we think about it is it's central to our whole ecosystem. So everything's denominated in UPT. The fees, the earns, revenues, portion of the revenues allocated to go back to buying the token or to burning the token, how it works for the team. We don't do kind of some arbitrary time-based lock like a traditional vesting periods. Everything's performance-based. So we have a couple of different models, like a dynamic distribution. So one is we want people to use the product. If you're just swapping out all day long, that's not really a healthy ecosystem. We want people to stake it, keep it in there, spend it on deals. So all those transactions, a small portion of the fees, that's what unlocks the tokens for the team. So we want to encourage or incentivize the team to actually build great products that people actually want to use daily. And that actually is one of them. Second is based on milestones on users and customers, people opting in for the wallet or spending money, same thing. So most of our tokens won't unlock it until we get to 10 million customers, for example. And so if you guys want to see more details there, but we have to really think about making it healthy, inflationary and deflationary mechanics here, and incentivize our team to actually work hard on bringing in customers and making sure they're using the product itself, kind of an NFT royalty-based inspired mechanics as well, where, again, where people are the team is getting unlocked based on usage. So encourage you guys to check that out, and I hope you guys appreciate that. We think about this really deeply. Tokenomics is hard. I don't think anyone has gotten right. We're going to be very transparent. Our team wallets are going to be transparent. We're going to explain exactly what happens with them every month. We're going to do a quarterly report, and we're going to adapt as we go. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, I think we'll now progress to the second and third portions of the AMA. So if you're in the audience, feel free to ask your questions now in the chat, but please specify who you're asking it to, and we will read those during the third part. For the second part, we'll go in the same order. So MonkeyDex, Sourceful, then UpRock, and you guys can give any final comments and address the audience one last time. This was probably answered. Is the traffic routed through our devices encrypted? I worry about government snooping, linking nefarious traffic to our devices.
So absolutely everything internal to our network is both encrypted, and then the final payload would be also encrypted. So it's essentially double encrypted. Anything exiting your device is overwhelmingly likely to be encrypted. The only exception to that would be, for instance, a workload that simply checked to see if a server responded, because that's the sort of thing that sort of happens before encryption would be stood up. But yes, everything internal is encrypted and almost everything external is encrypted.
Also, I would add to, in the beginning, It's not going to be like where anyone can just create an account and access the data. I think we're going to be a little in the beginning as we test the network, a little more curated. So knowing who our partners are, like Koi helps actually curate the partners that are doing the compute buying as well. Eventually, we'd like to get to a place where anyone can just sign up, connect the wallet, and start, buying the bandwidth. But in the beginning, we'll be very careful. So.